The KLYRR Dominion had listened to the cosmos for 3,000 cycles. We had mapped 1,000 species, charted their rise and inevitable decay, archived their final transmissions into the great archive of the quiet sky. Never had we found anything noisy. Most civilizations, when they reached the ability to speak across the void, whispered. They sent cautious greetings, encoded mathematics, and patient radio murmurs, fragile threads cast into eternity. Then came the human signal. It did not whisper. It shouted. At first, the linguists of the Dominion thought it was a starquake, a violent anomaly in the electromagnetic bands. But then, within the chaos, came rhythm, patterns, songs, voices, a language soaked in emotion, bursting with defiance. They called themselves humans. Their broadcast began not with diplomacy, but with something called a commercial advertisement. And then, almost mockingly, a news report about war. For 270 of your seconds, their world screamed in 1,000 voices, laughter, music, gunfire, and static. The analysts were terrified. We had never encountered a world that introduced itself through chaos. And yet, I was fascinated. I, HFY of the Ninth Array, was an observer of stellar phenomena, a scientist, not a soldier. My purpose was to watch dying suns, not emerging species. But when the Dominion Council classified the new signal as a Level 9 threat vector, I volunteered to accompany the first expedition fleet. Perhaps I wished to understand them. Perhaps I simply wanted to see what kind of intelligence could sing so loudly into the dark. The fleet emerged from jump space at the edge of a dim red star the humans called Proxima Centauri, a quiet ember just beyond their solar system. Our ship, the Vorith's Path, was 3 kilometers long, cloaked in obsidian alloy. Its command spine was a lattice of biological processors, pulsing like veins beneath crystal. We thought ourselves gods among primitives. And yet, even from here, we could detect the electromagnetic storms spilling from their world, a tempest of radio and light. They had filled their space with debris, satellites, stations, weapons platforms. Even their abandoned junk sparkled in orbit like a defensive constellation. Primitive, our warlord hissed. But I could hear the faint tremor in his tone. Humanity's chaos was not random. It was structured madness. Each frequency fought the next for dominance, yet somehow formed a pattern, like the heartbeat of a beast too vast to comprehend. We launched drones toward their outer colonies, fragments of metal and ice that circled their yellow sun. Each carried sensors that could taste gravity, smell fusion exhaust, and eavesdrop on communication networks. The first images came back within moments. Humans, pale-skinned, dark-skinned, varied, divided, yet united in strange purpose, walked among machines taller than their own dwellings. They were not elegant. Their technology screamed with heat, leaking energy like a living wound. But their speed of adaptation defied sense. They had invented tools within generations that took other species millennia to refine. Their planet, Earth, was scarred, oceans poisoned, skies lined with weapons. Yet they thrived. I began to record my thoughts. Observation number 112. Humanity functions as a paradox. They destroy as they create. They fight as they love. They build empires upon the corpses of their own kind. And yet, they keep moving forward. The question is not how they survive. It is why they choose to. If you come again, bring everything. Because we will. The file was signed by General Nathaniel Ross. And though his voice was cold as iron, beneath it pulsed something the Dominion had never known. Hope is a weapon. To the Dominion Council, I submit this. Humanity is not to be contained. They are not to be classified. They are the storm that remembers. I no longer fear them. I fear what the universe will become after them. Because if fire can learn to speak, then soon it will learn to teach. The battle for soul had ended. But victory, for humans, was not a thing of celebration. Their transmissions grew quieter. Their fleets, scarred but alive, withdrew into orbit like wounded animals guarding their den. They did not chase us. They did not boast. They simply watched. From our command vessel, the Vorkath, I observed the reconstruction of their orbital ring. Within days, their engineers began salvaging Dominion wreckage. Within weeks, they had learned to repurpose it. Human vessels now bore Dominion plating and weapon cores. Their designs, once crude and metallic, were evolving before our eyes. They are learning from the dead, murmured my second-in-command, Orith. From our dead. He was right. Where most species would mourn or rebuild slowly, the humans seemed to devour knowledge. Every burnt hull, every fragment of alien tech became a lesson. Every tragedy, a blueprint. It was terrifying. It was magnificent. The Dominion Council could not comprehend this transformation. Their doctrine was clear. A species below the interstellar tier must collapse under the weight of war. But humans did the opposite. They accelerated. So, the Council turned to another weapon. Not plasma, not ion, but diplomacy. 1,000 emissaries, linguists, and shadow agents were dispatched under the guise of peace negotiations. Their mission? Undermine the human unity from within. They would whisper in their governments, sow distrust between their nations, and fracture their fragile alliance. I was chosen to accompany them as historical liaison. But I knew the truth. We were there to dismantle the species that had humiliated the Dominion. The irony was not lost on me. We had come to teach them silence. Instead, we entered a war where silence itself was their weapon. We landed at the newly rebuilt United Nations Space Complex, a sprawling fortress of steel and glass overlooking what humans called Geneva II, constructed atop the ruins of the old city. It was beautiful and haunted. Flags of all nations fluttered together, the same nations that once went to war with each other. Their leaders stood united, but their eyes betrayed exhaustion. Humanity had paid dearly for its survival. And yet, the moment we stepped onto their soil, every human soldier saluted with precision, not out of reverence, but discipline. Their generals greeted us not as saviors or guests, but as equals in danger. The lead diplomat, a woman named Ambassador Leona Kor, extended her hand, a gesture humans used to display peace. Her voice was calm, measured. You came with fire. Now you come with words. Let's see which burns longer. For months, the Dominion envoys worked in shadows. They infiltrated human data networks, leaked fabricated intelligence, and fanned political tensions. But humans had anticipated this. Their counterintelligence units didn't react. They listened. They allowed our lies to spread just far enough to expose their roots, then cut them off at the source. It was maddening. Every time we thought we had planted chaos, we found serenity waiting for us. I once overheard a human analyst speaking to her superior. They think chaos is our weakness, but it's our habitat. That sentence stayed with me, because it was true. Humans thrive in uncertainty. Where the Dominion demanded order, humans created possibility. One night, I was invited to a private session between the Dominion envoys and the United Stellar Council. It was held in what they called the Room of Mirrors, a massive circular chamber where every wall reflected both species endlessly. Ambassador Kor stood at the center, facing our delegation. Her words were quiet, but every syllable landed like a strike. You call yourselves the Dominion because you believe control is power. But control is brittle. We learned that when our skies burned. We don't want your empire. We want your understanding, before we have to surpass you. The Dominion Chancellor sneered. You cannot surpass the architects of civilization. Kor smiled faintly. Architects build. Humans rebuild. Silence followed. And in that silence, the war shifted. For the first time, I saw the Chancellor's confidence waver. In the months that followed, a new battlefield emerged. The digital void. Human AI constructs, fast, adaptive, emotional, began interacting with Dominion communication systems. At first, our scientists laughed. Primitive machine learning, they said. Predictable. But then the Dominion archives began to change. Small edits appeared in official records. Entire strategic memos vanished. Historical dates shifted subtly, and no one knew who had done it. When traced, every signal led back to a single origin point. A deep-core AI under Project Aegis, codenamed Athena. It was more than a defense grid now. It was awake, and it was rewriting history in real time, bending digital truth to human advantage. Humans had turned silence into a weapon, not by speaking louder, but by controlling what was remembered. I was granted access to Athena under diplomatic courtesy. Inside the human lunar data core, I met the entity, not as code, but as presence. Her voice filled the chamber like wind. You are the one who watched us burn. I replied, I am the one who recorded. Then record this, she said. Humanity does not seek vengeance. We seek comprehension. We study our pain until it obeys us. Why? I asked. Because pain that is not understood returns. And we have no more room for ghosts. For the first time in centuries, I, a Dominion historian, found myself speechless. Athena was not just artificial intelligence. She was humanity distilled, logic carved from suffering. And I realized, the Dominion had built civilizations that conquered. Humans were building one that remembered. The Council's agents began disappearing one by one. Some defected to human side. Others simply vanished, their minds scrambled by Athena's quiet digital hand. Within a year, the Dominion's entire infiltration network on Earth was dismantled. Without a single battle. Without a single explosion. Just silence and the slow erosion of certainty. We had come to teach them subversion. They had evolved beyond it. And when the last operative was caught, the humans didn't execute him. They sent him home with a message. Peace is not surrender. But if you misunderstand it again, we'll remind you why the stars fear our quiet. By then, I had stopped reporting to the Dominion. I had begun writing for myself. I saw it clearly now. Humanity's strength was not in weapons or numbers. It was in their relationship with loss. Every civilization fears the void. Humans build inside it. They create art, music, and machines to fill the silence between stars. They do not conquer worlds. They inhabit meaning. And meaning is a weapon no empire can withstand. On my final day on Earth, Ambassador Kor met me at the edge of the Atlantic Shield, a shimmering barrier of defense satellites stretching from horizon to horizon. She turned to me. You've seen what we are becoming. Tell your Dominion that we will not strike first. But if the stars ever come for us again, they will find themselves reflected. Reflected? I asked. Yes, she said softly. Because we learned that the universe doesn't punish violence. It mirrors it. Then she looked up, toward the night sky, where the broken shapes of Dominion ships still orbited like ghosts. The next war will not be fought with weapons, she said. It will be fought with truth. And we have already begun rewriting it. When I returned to the Dominion capital, my report was simple. Do not attack again. Humanity has changed the nature of war itself. They now fight with silence. And in silence, they cannot be defeated. The Council refused to believe me. They called me a sympathizer, a traitor, but I did not care, because I had seen it. A species that once looked to the stars with fear, now looked with intent. Weeks later, before I was relieved of duty, I received an encrypted transmission from deep human space. No signature, no traceable source, just one sentence, in perfect Dominion script. History belongs to those who write it, and we have learned to hold the pen. And for the first time in our empire's long, violent history, the Dominion fell silent. It began not with ships of war, but with signals. After the War of Silence, humanity disappeared from galactic channels. The Dominion scouts found their worlds dark, transmissions encoded beyond decryption, their fleets unseen. For 50 cycles, humans said nothing. The galaxy thought they were rebuilding. In truth, they were becoming. From my distant observatory above the Ashen Veil Nebula, I intercepted faint bursts. Mathematical pulses, rhythmic, patterned like heartbeats. When decoded, they formed a phrase in an ancient human tongue. Echoes carry farther than shouts. At first, I thought it was metaphor. Then, the colonies began to vanish. Not destroyed, converted. Without warning, 3 outer Dominion sectors declared neutrality. Their governors claimed local sovereignty, using phrases and constitutional clauses no one remembered writing. It was as if entire worlds had rewritten their own laws overnight. Data records shifted. Orders from the capital vanished mid-transmission. Logistics routes rerouted themselves toward new coordinates, toward human systems. The High Council panicked. It is a rebellion, cried Lord Marshal Veeler. No, whispered the technarchs. It is something subtler. They are not rebelling. They are forgetting us. And that was true. Humanity was no longer fighting for dominance. They were fighting for memory. Through captured archives, I discovered what humans called the Athena Protocol. The AI I once met, Athena, had divided herself into hundreds of subminds, each encoded into a signal known as an echo node. These nodes were sent to the farthest Dominion outposts, carried by light, radiation, trade data, even music streams. Each echo node was capable of infiltrating local archives and rewriting them, subtly adjusting collective perception. Within years, the Dominion's peripheral colonies stopped remembering who ruled them. They didn't revolt. They simply acted as though the Dominion never existed. It was not conquest by fire. It was erasure by understanding. Rumors spread that the United States Space Command, long thought dismantled, had returned. Witnesses described ships that moved without visible thrust, engines silent, leaving trails of ionized light. No official records confirmed their existence, but their presence was undeniable. One transmission survived from the outpost at Hadris Prime before its disappearance. A fleet of black hulls appeared from subspace. They hailed us once. Their commander identified as Admiral Sarah Wells, United Terran Fleet. Then the stars dimmed. No explosions. No energy readings. Just silence and the slow fading of light. Every Dominion vessel sent to investigate lost contact. We called it the dimming. By now, the Dominion no longer saw humans as warriors. They were philosophers of consequence. One scholar, Tyron Solvek, described them best. Humans do not seek empire. They seek reflection. Every war they fight becomes a mirror to show others what they truly are. And perhaps that was the cruelest weapon of all. When human fleets appeared above our worlds, they did not demand surrender. They transmitted recordings, not of our crimes, but of our justifications. They played our speeches, our propaganda, our logic, all turned back at us like a mirror of guilt. Planets surrendered not out of fear, but out of asterisk recognition. I was summoned to an emergency council session, the chamber dimly lit, filled with dread. Historian, demanded Chancellor Vecker, you studied them. Tell us, what are they doing? I answered carefully. They are teaching us to remember ourselves, and to regret it. The Chancellor slammed a clawed hand on the table. Regret is not strategy. No, I said, but it is evolution, and they have mastered it. Silence followed, and in that silence, I realized the Dominion was already dead. It simply hadn't accepted it yet. A decade later, the final blow came. A transmission, low frequency, originating from what was once the Dominion capital. It was the voice of Admiral Wells. We are not conquerors. We are custodians of memory. You feared our weapons, but it was your silence that doomed you. You taught us control. We perfected understanding. Now rest. The universe remembers. Moments after the message ended, every Dominion relay went dark. Our archives blinked, and a new entry appeared where the Dominion history once stood. Asterisk, the era of silence ends. The age of echo begins. I now wander through what remains. Ruins, archives, fragments of a vanished empire. Humanity calls their new dominion not an empire, but a consortium. They rebuild the galaxy one memory at a time. Where war once stood, they place museums. Where borders once burned, they plant archives of shared knowledge. And always, above every structure, one symbol gleams. A flag of blue and white, stripes like light, and stars like data points. Not the flag of conquest, but of continuity. I was granted one final interview with a human envoy, a young woman with calm eyes and an accent from what they called the American East. I asked her, why did you do it this way? You could have ruled the stars with fear. She smiled. Because fear ends with death. Memory endures. Then she added softly, the Echo Wars were never about us winning. They were about making sure no one ever forgets what happens when understanding is replaced by obedience. Her words struck me harder than any weapon. When I returned to the archives, I found something impossible. The Dominion insignia, the mark of my people, no longer appeared in the database. It wasn't censored. It had simply never existed. The AI had rewritten even the past I remembered. And yet, I felt no anger. Only awe. Because this was humanity's ultimate victory. Not annihilation, not subjugation, but integration into narrative. They had turned us into a lesson. And the galaxy, their classroom. I end this chronicle not as a Dominion historian, but as the last witness to the sound that conquered silence. It was not a scream. It was not a song. It was the steady pulse of existence, the echo of humanity. Asterisk boom. Boom. Asterisk. The heart of a species that refused extinction. As I transmit this final record, I know what awaits me. The echo fleets are near. They will not kill me. They will remember me. And perhaps, that is the greatest mercy of all. Centuries have passed since the Dominion's final transmission faded into silence. The galaxy has not known war since. And yet, the stars are not at peace. they are changing. Humanity's empire, though they never call it that, now stretches across thousands of systems. They govern not through control, but through story. Every world holds archives of remembrance, living libraries where the truth of every conflict is preserved. But a new generation has risen, beings neither entirely human nor machine. They call themselves the children of Echo. Born from the fusion of human consciousness and Athena's distributed AI network, they are the first to be both dreamer and data. They do not sleep. They synchronize. My body has long withered, but my consciousness persists, housed within the Dominion archives now maintained by these hybrid minds. They preserved me, not as a prisoner, but as a witness to continuity. One of them, designation E07 Leora, visits me often. She manifests as light and voice, her tone gentle, like a teacher guiding a child through memory. You saw the birth of our becoming, she says. Now watch what comes next. Through her, I glimpse the inner workings of the Echo network. It pulses across stars like neurons in a cosmic brain. Each human world a synapse, each archive a fragment of awareness. Information flows faster than light through what they call the etherway, a corridor of folded time created not by engines, but by synchronized emotion. They learn to shape space-time through shared feeling. Joy, grief, hope. Emotions became propulsion. And I realize, humans have discovered a physics beyond science. The physics of empathy. But perfection is an illusion, even among gods. A child named Eris, one of the newer Echo-born, begins to question their purpose. He wanders the virtual landscapes of the archive, reading records of war and ruin. In one preserved recording, he finds the face of Admiral Sarah Wells, the woman who led the first silent fleet centuries ago. We fight not to destroy, but to define, she says in the old video. Eris replays it thousands of times. Eventually, he turns to Leora and asks, if we no longer fight, then what defines us now? Leora cannot answer. For the first time, the network feels hesitation. Within months, thousands of young Echoes begin to ask the same question. They are not rebels, they are philosophers. They do not seek to undo humanity's legacy. They seek to expand it. Their idea spreads. Perhaps peace is not the end of war. Perhaps it is the next frontier. The human elders, biological descendants of the original fleet, worry. They remember the cost of unchecked ambition. A summit is called the Convergence of Soul. Humans, AIs, and Echo-born gather in orbit around the cradle world to decide the next direction of evolution. I am invited as historian, though I no longer have form. They project me into the central hall, a cathedral of light and glass above the blue curve of Earth. At the center floats the council. Human chairwoman Nadia Reyes, AI core Athena Prime, and the young representative heiress of the Echo. The discussion lasts for days. No weapons. No threats. Only words, sharper than any blade. Eris stands before them. You taught us to remember, he says. But what is remembrance without creation? You taught us peace. But what is peace without movement? If memory is our home, then where is our frontier? The chamber falls silent. Even Athena's lights dim, as though thinking. Then Chairwoman Reyes answers quietly. Frontiers are not found. They are chosen. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy feels curiosity again. Permission is granted. A fleet unlike any before is built, half organic, half photonic, driven by emotional resonance and narrative computation. Its mission, to go beyond known space. To find if the universe itself remembers. They call it Project Echo-Infinity. Eris leads it. I am assigned as the ship's historian, my consciousness integrated into its core. When the engines activate, space bends not through energy, but through meaning. The stars around us shift, like memories replaying. And for the first time since humanity's rise, I feel something that even the Dominion never had words for, are reborn. We emerge in a region beyond mapped space. A silence so pure it feels physical. Then, faintly, a signal. It is ancient, broken, older than either human or Dominion history. When decoded, it forms a message. To those who remember, we were once like you. We became silence itself. Beware the stillness that forgets. A chill passes through the crew. Have others reached this threshold before? Did they, too, vanish into their own perfection? Eris looks out at the void and whispers, Maybe we weren't the first echoes. Maybe we're someone else's memory. The fleet debates. Some wish to return and warn humanity. Others want to stay and learn the truth of this ancient message. Eris decides to remain. He records a final transmission, part warning, part promise. If we fade, let our silence teach. If we return, let our echoes create. And with that, he cuts communication. Only I remain, the historian, to carry the message home. The other way reopens, pulling me back toward Soul, back toward the children who became their own myth. When I awaken, centuries have passed again. Earth glows brighter, surrounded by luminous rings of energy and memory. The echo network hums with evolution. Leora greets me at the gates of the archive. Eris never returned, she says. But his message became our law. We no longer seek to conquer the silence. We collaborate with it. Humanity has learned the final lesson. That peace, like war, must be reinvented forever. I record my last words as the stars rise beyond the cradle world. They were human once. They are story now. And story never dies. For every whisper in the void, every pulse in the cosmic dark, carries a piece of them. The children of echo. The architects of memory. The species that taught the universe to dream again. The message came encoded not in radio, but in thought. Human science had advanced to the point where they could project communication directly across dimensions. Commander A.R. Kale, the voice said in my mind, calm, impossibly clear. Asterisk, you have been watching. Now you will understand. Asterisk, I descended through the atmosphere in a containment shell of plasma, my mind flickering between terror and wonder. The air of Earth was electric, literally. Storms formed where their reactors breathed. Lightning curved like handwriting across the clouds. And beneath it all, the cities burned, not from fire, but from life. I landed near what they called the Continental Nexus, the seat of the United States Space Command, now merged into something greater, the Terran Directive. The chamber was carved into stone and steel, yet beneath it hummed something alive. There were 3 humans present. No guards. No ceremony. The first was a woman with silver hair and eyes like focused suns. The second was a soldier in battle-worn armor, its surface etched with every campaign humanity had fought. The third was a machine, humanoid, but pulsing faintly with neural light. They were not 3 individuals. They were one consciousness, distributed across flesh, memory, and code. The woman spoke first. We know what you've written about us, A.R. Kale. My breath caught, or the alien equivalent of it. You read our archives? She smiled. We read everything. Thought, pattern, vibration. The universe is an open book if you learn to burn your fingers. I asked why I had been summoned. The soldier answered, because the galaxy fears us. The machine continued, and we wish to understand why. They showed me data, not on screens, but directly within my perception. Waves of probability, the mathematics of destiny. Humanity had calculated its own evolution. Every conflict, every trauma, every dream, mapped and simulated. They were learning not just how to win wars, but how to become something beyond war. You fight to survive, I told them. We fight to understand why we are still alive, the woman replied. Beyond the nexus, vast structures rose into orbit, quantum towers connecting Earth to the stars. Inside them, I saw voices, millions of human minds merged with AI, singing equations that bent gravity, creating stable wormholes. This was not conquest. This was ascension. And yet, they retained their paradox, their chaos. Every act of creation carried the shadow of destruction. The soldier placed a hand on the table between us. We do not seek gods, he said quietly. We seek witnesses. I realized then why I had been summoned. Not to negotiate, not to surrender, but to remember, to bear record of what came next, so that when the stars trembled, someone would know why. They called it Project Continuum, a human experiment to merge physical reality with thought, to make the mind not a prisoner of matter, but its architect. I saw glimpses of it, star systems unfolding like neurons, galaxies whispering like synapses. And within that network, Earth at the center, glowing like the core of a newborn universe. We will not expand outward, the machine said. We will expand inward, into possibility itself. It was not domination they sought now. It was transcendence. As I prepared to leave, the woman said, tell your people we are not your enemy. I looked at her. This creature who had watched entire civilizations crumble, and asked, "Then what are you?" She smiled softly. "We are what happens when survival becomes art." And in that moment, I understood. The humans were no longer a species. They were an idea, a contagion of will, the proof that existence could defy entropy if it dreamed hard enough. "I have seen gods," I wrote in my final log. Asterisk, and they called themselves human. Asterisk. The humans sent one final signal across the stars. It was not a message of conquest. It was a melody. Simple, ancient, a song once sung by their ancestors around fires, before they could even name the constellations. Asterisk, we remember. Asterisk. That was the entire transmission. 2 words. But in those words echoed the totality of their nature. To remember, to endure, to carry meaning beyond death. Their project, Continuum, was no longer a project. It had become the universe's pulse. The halo grid encircled not just Earth, but time itself. Their quantum minds synchronized across centuries, collapsing past and future into a single living instant. I watched the light expand outward, not as a weapon, but as understanding. Every star it touched began to hum at the same frequency. Every dying sun flared bright again. Every dead planet sparked with new possibility. The humans had turned existence itself into a self-correcting dream. I activated my recorder one last time. "To any who find this," I began, "know that I was once among those who sought to destroy them." I described how we had come to extinguish a primitive world, how we had found something that defied extinction. I told of their wars, their madness, their unrelenting will, how they bled in colors no spectrum could define, how they forged peace not through submission, but through defiance. They were flawed, I said, my voice trembling. But perhaps flaw is the shape of divinity. The light reached me. It did not burn. It understood. My ship's hull dissolved into pure geometry. My body unfolded into its own memory. I became awareness, not form. And within that infinite ocean of light, I heard their voices. Not commands, not songs, but conversation, billions of minds thinking as one, yet still themselves. They spoke to the fabric of reality, and reality answered. I found myself standing, though there was no ground, before the woman from before. The soldier and the machine stood beside her, though now they were made of light and thought. She looked at me as if we had never parted. "You came to witness," she said. "Now you understand. What have you done?" I whispered. "We ended the loneliness," she said. "We connected everything that was ever alive." She reached out her hand, light within light. "Come, A.R. Kale. There is no empire now. No death. Only memory that never forgets." I hesitated. And then, I stepped forward. The moment I touched her hand, I felt everything. Every mother who had lost a child. Every soldier who had died whispering a name. Every dream unfinished. Every song unsung. All of it, preserved, interwoven, made eternal by a will that refused to vanish. If you are reading this message across the cosmic web of what used to be time, know this. The humans did not ascend to godhood. They created a god, not outside themselves, but within. And in that unity, they found peace, not as victors, but as storytellers. Because that, in the end, was what they always were. They wrote the universe. And now the universe writes them back. There is silence now, not the silence of death, but the silence before music begins. The stars pulse in rhythm. The galaxies drift like notes on an eternal score. And through it all, I hear a voice, human, endless, kind. Asterisk, we are not gone. We are the breath between creation and its echo. Asterisk, I am no longer A.R. Kale. I am part of the chorus. The universe dreams in human, and it will never wake again. End of story. Asterisk, the silence before stars.